Ladies and gentlemen, safety innovation is a fast-moving field, and open collaboration is critical to democratizing access to core safety infrastructure. To discuss these subjects, please welcome Naren Koneru, the Vice President of Engineering and Safety at Roblox, David Chia, Senior Product Manager at Discord, and Johanna Shelton, External Affairs Lead at OpenAI. Eli Sugarman, Director of Special Projects at the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, will moderate the discussion.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I think that cheering was clearly for us, so I think you'll channel that energy as we kick off. There we go, even more cheering. A great panel today about the promise of open source for safety infrastructure. How do we democratize access to the core technology that pretty much every online platform, AI-powered or not, needs to keep children safe, to keep the elderly safe, and really do what I think everybody wants the digital future to accomplish. And so excited today to have a panel with three amazing folks. On my right, Naren Koneru, who leads engineering at Roblox for trust and safety, leader in AI and open source tools. To his right, David Chia, who is a program manager at Discord, working on some of their cutting edge technology in the space. And last but definitely not least, my old friend and colleague, Johanna Shelton from OpenAI, who leads civil society engagements and partnerships for a lot of their work. So what I want to do is use this panel to really make the case for why open source tools are really powerful and something that does not get enough attention. And one of the things we're going to highlight is a new nonprofit called Roost, Robust Open Online Safety Tools, which is a new nonprofit that SCSP, our wonderful sponsors of this conference, incubated when I was a member of the SCSP team, and that is supported by many of those of you in the audience and funded and supported by the three amazing technology leaders on the stage today. So we'll do a quick round of questions and then have an interesting conversation and then try to draw the audience into the conversation if we have time. So starting with Naren, really, I'd love you to explain why AI, this is an expo and a conference on AI, connect AI to online safety tools and safety infrastructure.
Yeah, great question, Eli. Can you hear me okay? So,
louder.
You can hear me? Okay. How about now? Yeah, okay, I need to yell. So why AI? It's a really important question. So at Roblox, safety is our top priority. And you have to operate at scale, right? We are talking about close to 90 million users, sending more than 4 billion messages, et cetera. And we have to make these decisions at scale, like billions of these decisions, within milliseconds, right? So we can't just use humans in the loop to make these decisions, and we have to build systems that can scale and really smart about making these decisions, right? And again, they range from millions of these decisions within milliseconds to like some really nuanced, long conversations where there is a lot of human judgment is involved. And we leverage AI to do this, right? And why AI is a really interesting question, because without this, I don't think we can keep the platform safe for 1 billion users, right? Because again, it just is not cost effective. It's not, the quality is not good. And as a principle, we never deploy any ML model unless it's more accurate than humans, right? It has to be way better than humans, otherwise we don't deploy it. That's the principle. And what we have learned over the last 3 years is most of the models that we do for frontline decision making, they have surpassed human quality by a lot, right? Now, we still use humans to, because the language changes, the behavior changes, and we need to teach the models about the evolving behavior, so we still use humans for that. We still use humans to do the nuanced, deeper investigations where our models are not good enough. But for the majority of this thing, we do leverage AI. And what we have learned with this is, it's not only cost effective, the quality of the decisions have increased a lot, right? And the most importantly, because of AI, we are able to give real-time feedback to people. And this real-time feedback changes the behavior, right? If I can tell that, hey, you're doing something wrong within the 10 seconds of the event happening, that just has a real impact on people to change the behavior. And overall, it increases the stability of the platform. And that was the most interesting learning. We were totally surprised when that happened. And I think that experiment was really, really good. And part of this is when we open sourced our voice classifier, because that was the first time we can tell you if this conversation is going off the rails, and within 10 seconds we can detect it, and we can give you a nudge, and that changes the behavior of the people and makes the society overall more civil. Right? So it's been super effective for us, Eli.
No, wonderful. I think it's a great point you make about the power of AI to go to scale, efficiency, to incorporate so many languages, like the new iteration of your voice safety classifier expands the languages covered. David, could you build off that and really explain why open source? Sort of that next layer that Naren was starting to get at, and Discord having really focused on that. Would love to hear about the Discord experience and make the case for open source to help us better understand.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your question. I'm actually going to answer this question with an analogy, so please bear with me, okay? So imagine you had different cities with different rules, right? So traffic lights in one city where red could mean stop, and in another city, red could mean go. So in such a situation, bad actors can most definitely take advantage of these cities, and that's why I think open source makes a huge impact in this community. So at Discord in particular, we care a lot about open source. It is our mission to actually take some of our tools and make open source readily available for everyone. We at Discord have started working really closely with Roost, and actually Roost has been a really big partner for all of us. And at Roost, we ensure that we take these technologies and make them readily available. So one of the things that we are working with, just to give you an example, is our video CSAM classifier. For those of you who don't know what CSAM is, it's child sexualization. So in particular with the child safety work that we do, we have partnered a lot with other companies like Google, like Thorn, like NECMEC, in order to ensure that these models support us. So yeah, I think we've really enjoyed the partnership. I think one of the other things that I also want to bring out is when people think of open source, they think of it as us just putting a bunch of code onto GitHub and expecting that it would land well. Oh, sorry. Oops. Sorry, did you get any of that? Oh my God, I was pretty much just talking to myself on stage. Okay, let me start it all over again. Okay, where do I begin? So I'm going to start with the analogy. Imagine you live in a city with different traffic rules, right? In one city, red means stop. In another city, red means go. It's going to be total chaos, and you're going to get these different drivers effectively manipulating the system. And I think this is actually where open source really makes a huge difference, because you're building these shared tools, these common language, and this common infrastructure that can be beneficial for all of the players. In Discord in particular, one of the ways that we've been working with Roost is actually by open sourcing our rules engine. Unlike most people think of open source as, taking a bunch of code, putting it online, and hoping that it lands well. And I feel like giving people or giving the community really powerful tools without any support, it's almost like giving people keys to a really fast racing car and not giving them any training at all, right? So it could be completely unhelpful and also really dangerous. So one of the things that I think Roost has done really well is really flip this equation, where instead of us necessarily owning the entire end-to-end process of publishing our tools and also maintaining it, Roost actually handles a lot of that maintenance. So we really just focus on what we do best, which is taking our rules engine and putting it onto Roost, and Roost works with different community partners, different thought leaders, in order to ensure that we get the maintenance and the support that we need.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, David, and that was extremely eloquent, even the second time around. So sort of let me keep going, and Johanna, to pull you in, what David was getting at, that how do we ensure these open source tools benefit a broad community? How do you think about that collaborative nature, bringing people in the tent to work together? Would love to hear your thoughts on that, and why is collaboration so important for an effort like this?
Great, thank you, Eli. Can you hear me before I start? Okay, thank you. And a big thank you to the Special Competitive Studies Project for doing this really important panel at the Expo. I think this exposure is really important, and I'm thrilled to see them doing that. OpenAI is proud to be a founding member of the Roost Initiative, alongside other industry partners, small and large, alongside civil society partners, and alongside philanthropic organizations, to both invest in and build core safety infrastructure, importantly, that can scale across the digital ecosystem in this intelligence age at the tools that we need to fuel the safety across the whole ecosystem. Collaboration is really key to this entire Roost initiative. So taking that open source approach, using AI as part of the solution that Naren talked about as well, the developers, whether they're small or large, whether they're from nonprofits, whether they're from industry, they can really, they may not have the resources themselves independently to invest in and build robust online safety tools. But when we can collaborate in this way, we can bring it across to more people, and we can really make the whole ecosystem safer. It's purposely designed to be additive, to be on top of other solutions, to be scalable in the way that we need it for today's technology, and to be flexible. I really like how Roost even has a team of technical advisors that are willing to meet those developers wherever the developers are coming at. And that's, I think, a really important part of this broader ecosystem that we're a part of. So OpenAI believes in building safe and beneficial AI for all of humanity. So for us, it is taking our expertise, building on foundations like our moderation API, and then collaborating with other industry partners, with other partners across the spectrum, and being able to share that with the really small players and with others who are not as thinking as deeply in this space, may not have the resources, and really making the online world safer for everyone. So this is really fundamental to our vision going forward. I also want to emphasize the point that AI is also part of the solution here. And so I was talking to a civil society partner recently, and the partner expressed, it is very refreshing to be kind of getting beyond the discussions over policy language and to actually build something and to build it collaboratively in this way. And it feels good for everyone. At OpenAI, this is an initiative that is strongly supported by our product team, by our research team, by the technical team, by the lawyers, and by the public policy professionals. And it's really, such a fundamental, important thing. We also view it as key to the future of democratic AI, to build that trust with the public, and to be, to provide solutions that are needed for the safety of going forward, and to really key it to adoption as well. And so we just think this is a really smart initiative, and we welcome more people to join it.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Can I add something about
Please,
why open
please.
source? I spent about a decade before working on open source. And apart from the points that David and Johanna talked about, the power of the community to make the tools better is really, really big, right? In my previous incarnation, like the whole big data system, it evolved on open source, right? And it has to be intentional, but so that's why Roost is really important, that there is an organization that is pushing this behind to evolve the technology. But getting contributions from everybody, from the research community, from different companies is really key in making the software like really world class. And the last thing, if you look at also like most of the security software out there, it's all open source, right? So one of the questions that comes up is, hey, if you're open sourcing the safety related software, is it easy for bad actors to go and find all these loopholes in it? I think that's a great thing, right? Like you're going to get like massive amounts of testing from research community, from all these other companies, that overall the software keeps getting better and better to keep the bad actors out. So I think it's a great thing that open source is really good to make the overall ecosystem really better. But it has to be intentional, and that's why Roost is really important.
Yeah, and I think the other point that I would add there as well is, and this is a learning that we had at Discord, is that bad actors don't stay on a single platform, right? They tend to use other companies' technologies, right? They might generate content using ChatGPT, live stream it somewhere, store it somewhere else, and then chat about it and coordinate it in like a encrypted chat or channel. And what this also means is that like ability to kind of see in between these different companies, and the fact that these different like companies are coming together to see safety really as a public good, not as a competitive advantage, is really, I think, the thing that really Discord stands for, especially in the interoperability of all of our platforms. And I think open source helps us kind of see the interoperability and the blind spots that we often miss.
and then to act on them quickly, right? So there's a speed element to the open sourcing as well, which I think is very important.
Yeah. No, and I think one of the reasons that drew me from the philanthropy side and SCSP and the Schmidt Family Office and everybody who helped fund this was, if you think about every innovative company, and we have 3 big ones here, but every small one, or even the Wikimedias of the world and sort of the nonprofit communities, everyone agrees, and it's stated in law in the United States that child sexual abuse material is illegal content, it is harmful, and it's disgusting. And putting the costs of trying to figure out the technology, either to acquire it or build it or mix it together so that it works at scale, just everybody having to figure that out themselves, realizing there are great groups like the Tech Coalition, Nick, Mick, and others trying to help folks on their journey, and they do great work. But still actually saying, here's the technology that is freely available, it has been vetted, it has been tested, it has been forked, security by obscurity is more of a fiction than a reality. Democratizing that and giving it to people to then build on top of it in their own way, to take their new idea forward, is a powerful thing. And just every company here has by default built a lot of the same software internally, spent a lot of money on it, and if you take a step back and said, what would I like to have done 10 years ago differently, one of the answers would probably be, man, I wish we didn't have to build that same heuristics or rules engine or review console or whatever it is, to say that actual software, the actual engineering time, the cycles that went into it could be better used to then do the new really exciting thing, because base level safety for child safety is something that I think everybody wants to do and is not a competitive advantage. It's sort of the expectation. But how do we take it to the next level on creative forms of AI deployments and the like? And so all of you all have channeled that in certain ways. And so sort of a question is, what are you most excited about going forward? Roost launched in February at the AI Expo that the French government hosted. We have a lot of exciting announcements coming out in a few weeks, building up to TrustCon in July. And so I'll get into that a little bit more at the very end of the panel. But sort of curious if you're looking to the future, you started to hint at it, but would love to hear, is there something that you're really excited to see or to do, or an opportunity that you would call on someone in the audience to think about, just, you know?
Yeah, I think these are all great points, right? So you already talked about, one of the things that you mentioned, Eli, is how safety is a shared responsibility, right? It's not exactly a competitive advantage. That's not how we look at it. It is a shared responsibility. So that's why whenever we build any world-class tech, we want to share it with the world, share it with the other companies, and we lean on other companies to build the same things, and we leverage internally as well, right? So it is a shared responsibility. And like you said, I mean, all of us have like different expertise in like different areas, right? And one of the things where we at Roblox spend a lot of time, a lot of energy is especially around how to keep the kids safe, right? Like how do we detect bad actors in real time and put them in jail? And there is a bunch of models that we built internally, which we are in testing it. We've been performing extremely well, and these are some things that we are excited to share with the world. And that's going to something that will happen over the next few months, and we will share it with the world. And I was actually talking to David to see if they'd be willing to test this out and potentially make this even better, right? So yeah, a lot of the models that we are going to build that will run in real time to detect all sorts of bad activity on the platforms is something that I wish companies who have done it before us would put it in the open source and to make the overall internet safer. Yeah, I'm very excited about how this is going to evolve over the future.
Yeah, I think immediately when you asked the question, Eli, I thought about like just the democratization of open sourcing. We always think of like open sourcing and having worked in like big tech companies as usually reserved when you have tons of money and tons of resources, right? Because it's not just listing the code online, it's also just having an army of people to keeping it and supporting it and dealing with all the customer support and developer asks that you have. And I think what Ruse does is effectively plays that intermediary, like kind of like aftercare support role after you've open sourced that code. So now not only can big tech companies open source their safety tools, but smaller companies like Discord, or even those that are smaller than Discord, are able to very easily work with Ruse and get some of their code online and have it be readily available for anyone to use. And I think the more, and to Naren's point, the more people collaborate into the safety ecosystem, the much safer the internet, I think, just becomes for everyone. And in fact, we all benefit from this.
I think that's exactly right. I think I would answer this question by asking people to raise their hand if they have been to TrustCon. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of people that haven't, and I feel like what the excitement for me is that this is bringing safety out of the world of just TrustCon, which is a wonderful, important, really, actually incredibly vital community that doesn't get enough attention, I think, and to bring it to a more baseline level of understanding as the outside world and the public think things are moving very rapidly in this space. They also need to know that the safety is moving very rapidly as well. The safety is getting operationalized. The safety is getting collaborative across the whole ecosystem. There are baseline best practices. There are baseline tools. We are doing shared tooling to get that faster and deeper and more robust, to Naren's point that it's checked and safer. And for the public to really get more of an understanding of that, again, I circle back to the point of thank you for the Expo providing opportunities to talk about this, because it goes hand in hand with the adoption of the public, which is coming. It is here. It is coming even faster. We see it every day. So let's make sure that they see the safety side as well.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a great point, Johanna, because oftentimes we talk about all of the scary things that AI could be used to do, some of which are coming to pass and will come to pass, and some of it is exaggerated. But as sort of like, what's a positive use case? The power of AI, obviously it is disrupting traditional trust and safety teams and technologies across platforms. It is also holds a ton of promise, as Naren started with, just in terms of scale, speed, languages, all of that. And we're in a very complicated time because the whole safety field is being disrupted. And how do you navigate that disruptive period as the problematic aspects of these technologies are, because the bad guys typically are early adopters and they love to use new technologies to do bad things. And then the good guys, so to say, in this simplistic dichotomy then catch up. And one of the things that I think is very powerful is the number of actors that have come together from civil society, from philanthropy, from the private sector to say, listen, this is a public interest to build shared infrastructure. It is decentralized, it is democratized. There is not a single person sitting at the top of the system that tells you what your policies are and then how to enforce them. To the contrary, it's saying here are the technical building blocks that give you high quality, resilient infrastructure. You then adapt and deploy them to whatever serves your community and your needs. And that means that Truth Social will use them in one way and Blue Sky can use them in another way, and that is sort of the beauty of open source. It embraces that pluralism, the diversity of viewpoints, that different communities need and want different things. And each of your companies has slightly different products, slightly different user bases. And I think that also, that letting all of those different approaches take root and learning from each other and innovating is one of the exciting things here as well. And so I know we have about 7 minutes left. So happy to see if there's anything else that folks want to riff off each other's comments. I think we can also potentially go to the audience and see if anybody wants to ask anything. I don't know, does anything more you want to?
Yeah, maybe one thing to add to what Johanna was asking. I never been to TrustCon. I'm an engineer. I like to just spend time in front of a computer building things. But this year I will be there. I think our team has been going there. It's amazing. It's a lot of discussions around policy making. What is the right thing? What is not? And all of those are great. And I think we have seen an evolution of TrustCon to talk a little bit more around the technology, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think we are seeing that the tech is really helping us to, turn the safety in a very different direction, that we can actually enforce these decisions at scale and keep the overall civility on the platforms way better. So I think overall, this is ecosystem. I know a lot is changing for safety professionals, but overall, I think it is moving in a very positive direction, and I'm very optimistic about that.
I guess a point to call out is that this is a global kind of race. I hate to use that term, but this is a global dynamic, and I think things like the Roost initiative is really important to distinguish sort of people trying to do safety in a robust way, which I don't think will be everyone. So I do think that's also a really it's a time right now. I'm thrilled to see the philanthropic community, civil society, and others really invest, because now is the time to do that and to really set a baseline for the rest of the world of what we should all expect as far as safety.
Great. Well, I mean, I know you may have come to this not expecting to ask any questions, but does anybody want to ask anything just to, please, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca McKinnon with the Wikimedia Foundation. Thanks very much for this. Since we're in Washington, I'm wondering what your ask or your message is to policymakers, not just in the United States, but in world capitals, about how best to support child safety and what not to do. Thanks.
So I mean, I'm happy to take that on behalf of Roost, and then if folks want to dive in or not. I think one of the things I would say is that Roost is consciously at the infrastructure layer. We are going to provide technology and then let people use it. We respect policymaking and legislators and regulators, and they need to decide what is best. I think there are a lot of great groups who are in the advocacy space who have different views, who share those. And what we're trying to do and tell to regulators and lawmakers is, one of the key impediments oftentimes is the actual technology that organizations need to detect, stop, and report CSAM on their platforms, and that is where we are starting to try to make that possible across the globe for smaller organizations that are having trouble scaling and it's impacting their business. And that is our role in the ecosystem and what we are trying to do, and others have other views as to how to think about the shape of laws and regulations, but respectfully, we're sort of at the infrastructure layer, and that is where we think our value add is, because that is how our team is staffed and what we're focused on. Don't know if others want
to build upon that, because we are in DC, Rebecca, so I do think it's incumbent on the staff and the policymaker audience to actually take the time to learn what is happening at the infrastructure level, right? And I think that there's been efforts, and sometimes those efforts are criticized as taking too long or that. But if they go deeper, that is a good thing, and it is really important, because what's grounding the companies is the technology and the infrastructure, and trying to build these robust tools as efficiently and robustly as we can, and just having more awareness of these efforts, particularly I would say this one, like the Roost Initiative, which does bring that whole community together, civil society and philanthropy, and the companies large and small, companies across the whole stack. Like this is the kinds of things that I would hope policymakers want to incentivize and would learn about and talk about more, as they're doing all those other things they're doing, which I'm not sure what that is today, but I'm sure something.
I think that's exactly right. Having this empathy both ways is really good. I think everybody has their heart in the right place, but understanding about each other is really good. One of the examples we were talking about even this morning was, you can build a platform where you say, hey, every child under 13 needs a parental consent, otherwise you don't let them sign up, right? It's a great theory in principle. Whether you do that or you try to do a data minimalization way where we don't collect any data about the kids, I think that's a very different approach to these problems, right? And you can argue one way or the other, but the biggest thing is, I think you have to take the incentive away from people to lie about things, right? The moment you add a lot of friction, people will lie, and then the next thing you know, bad things will happen. So we want to create platforms which are safe by default, right? And make sure that we don't have any incentive for people to lie about their age or their behavior, their countries, etc. And that will make the overall system better. And I feel like this is some place where we may not have the same understanding with the policymakers, at least as an engineer. And it'll be good to learn both sides of this.
I'm just going to make a short point, because I know we have 1 minute 30 seconds left. Oh, actually, why don't we go with...
Do it quick and I'll wrap up.
Hi, Andrew Sachs with Noble Learning. Kids trade live learning and leadership instead of likes. Great point about empathy. I guess you missed the memo. Empathy is the bane of Western civilization, apparently. Is our challenge that the very tech platforms that we're depending on actually create the very conflict and lack of trust inside of our society? Is it that the monetization, the for-profit clickable negativity-focused nature of these platforms actually induce a lack of trust and almost a lack of reality in our discourse. You guys talk about, empathy. There's not a lot of empathy happening in a lot of these big platforms. Any thoughts?
Anyone want to tackle that, or
Should we have time?
Quickly, and then I'll wrap.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
I actually think it's so important to, and I think this is the point that like Johanna made, to acknowledge the complexity and also the double-edged nature of technology, right? I think like every technology comes with benefits and harms, and we've seen that throughout history, from the invention of the car to the invention of the atomic bomb to now kind of entering the age of AI. And I feel it's a rather simplistic argument to say that like empathy is the rationale and the reason for the division in our society. I think it's so important to actually come together as opposed to come separately or see this as a binary. And that's kind of like what we like to do at Discord is and ensure that like the people, and that this is where the benefit that roots, come together and have these conversations as opposed to see the binaries between every single technology.
Great. Well,
and very quickly, this could be its own 3-day conference, as you well know when you ask the question. But everything is grounded in people and how people use technology. And sometimes I think people want to put everything on technology, and we need to just realize the complexity. I'll end there as well.
Yeah. No, I think fair note to end on. Thank you all for coming. I would encourage you all to go to Roost's website, roost.tools. We're going to be making some exciting announcements about the actual tools that we are making available to people and the great things they do, some events that we're hosting, and really to get involved, because we want to broaden the tent. We want more nonprofits, more companies, more just developers and engineers and hackers joining us on this safety open source mission. So please come join us, and thank you again for your time and for listening to the panel today.
Nice job.